In the last video, we looked shame in the eye. Today, we follow it into anger, into joy, into the body, into the places it has been hiding your whole life. And we find the way back. Hi, I'm Uma. Welcome back to Emotional Literacy Unlocked. I'm your host, classically trained shaman, and today we are in part 2 of our deep dive into shame. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, please do. We covered what shame is, how it moves in the body, its historical roots, and its connection to the heart and the small intestine and TCM. Today we go further. Today we look at how shame disguises itself inside other emotions. We look at what the full shame process actually looks like when we let it move, and we talk about what I believe is the most important thing shame needs in order to heal: a witness. I said in the last video that shame hides inside all the other emotions. Let me show you exactly what that looks like, because once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Shame inside anger. This is one of the most common disguises. When anger comes up and we immediately feel guilty for being angry, when we apologize for our anger before we have even expressed it, that is shame. When we explode and then collapse into self-loathing afterwards, that is shame. But the anger was real and valid. But shame wrapped around it and said, you should not feel this. You are bad for feeling this. So instead of anger giving us its clean information about our boundaries, our needs, our desire for eye-to-eye connection, it gets tangled in shame and becomes either explosion or collapse, neither of which gives us what we need. Shame inside joy. We talked about that in the joy video. The moment you feel genuine, expansive, overflowing joy and something inside you immediately pulls back. This is too much. I am too much. I do not deserve this. That pulling back, that is shame. Shame around joy is particularly heartbreaking because joy is one of the most life-affirming emotions that we have. And shame cuts it off at its root. Shame inside sadness. When someone is grieving and they apologize for crying, when they say, I should be over this by now, when they feel embarrassed for still being sad, for still missing someone, for still hurting, that is shame inside sadness, and it prevents the sadness from completing its process, from doing the deep restructuring work that we talked about in the sadness videos. Shame inside sexuality. This one runs very deep, especially given the Puritan history we discussed in part 1. When desire arises and is immediately followed by a sense of wrongness, when the body's natural impulses are met with internal disgust or self-judgment, that is shame. And it disconnects us from one of the most powerful sources of life energy we have. Shame inside disgust. And here's the subtle one. Shame inside disgust. When we feel disgusted by something and then feel ashamed for our disgust. I should not be so sensitive. I should be able to handle this. What's wrong with me? That's shame wrapping around a healthy protective response and undermine it. Do you see the pattern? Shame does not have its own clear face. It borrows the faces of other emotions and then corrupts their information. It takes what was meant to be a clean signal from your soul and turns it into a reason to reject yourself. What shame actually needs: a witness. Now I want to talk about healing, and I want to be very specific because I think a lot of what is said about healing shame is incomplete. You will hear, love yourself more, accept yourself, be compassionate with yourself. And all of that is true, but it misses something essential. Shame is a relational wound. It was created in relationship, in the eyes of a parent, a teacher, a community, a culture that looked at some part of you and said, not that, not here, not you. And because it was created in relationship, it cannot be fully healed in isolation. This does not mean you need to perform your shame for the world. It does not mean you need to expose your most vulnerable parts to people who are not safe. But it does mean that at some point, in some relationship, with some witness, the hidden part of you needs to be seen and then met with something other than rejection. This is what we're doing in the holding space video with Dominic. This is what happens in my shamanic training circles. This is what a good therapist does. This is what a trusted friend does when they say, I see the part of you and I'm still here. That moment of being seen in your shame and not rejected is one of the most healing experiences a human being can have, because it directly contradicts the core belief of shame. If they see this, they will leave. When they see it and they stay, something in the nervous system begins to reorganize. The frozen place begins to thaw. The part that has been hiding begins to believe slowly that it might be safe to come out. The shame spiral and how to interrupt it. Let me give you something practical now, because shame has a very specific pattern when it activates, and knowing the pattern is the first step to interrupting it. The shame spiral goes like this. Something triggers shame, a mistake, a rejection, a moment of being seen in a way that feels exposing, and the body contracts. The inner critic activates. You are too much, not enough, wrong, broken. You withdraw from the situation, from other people, from yourself. In the withdrawal, the shame grows because now you are alone with it, and shame grows in isolation. So the spiral tightens. And here's how to interrupt it. First, name it. Not to the world necessarily, but to yourself. I am feeling shame right now. Just naming it begins to shift the nervous system. It brings the prefrontal cortex back online. It creates a tiny bit of distance between you and the spiral. Second, locate it in the body. Where is the contraction? Where are you holding it? Breathe into that place, not to fix it, but to be with it, to say, I see you, I am not running. Third, question the belief. Shame always carries a belief. I am too much, I am not enough, I am fundamentally wrong. Find the belief and then ask gently, with curiosity, not aggression, is this actually true? Or is this something I was taught? Most of the time, if you can get quiet enough to really ask, you will find that the belief was handed to you by a parent who was overwhelmed, by a culture that needed you smaller, by a religion that feared your aliveness, by a family system that had no room for the particular way you feel and express and exist. It was handed to you, and you can hand it back. Fourth, find one safe witness. Even if it's just yourself in a journal, even if it's just you speaking out loud in an empty room saying, this part of me exists and it is allowed to exist. That is witnessing. That is the beginning of the return path. The return path, what tribal communities knew. I want to come back to something from part one. The idea that in tribal communities, shame always had a return path. You felt it, you corrected the course, and then you came back into belonging. I think this is one of the most important things we have lost in modern Western culture. We have kept the shame, but we have lost the return. And I want to suggest that rebuilding that return path is one of the most radical acts of emotional literacy that we can do. What does a return path look like in modern life? It looks like communities, real ones, not just online ones, where people can be honest about their struggles without being judged. It looks like relationships where repair is possible after rupture, where you can say, I got that wrong, and be met with, I know, and I'm still here. It looks like the spiritual practices, shamanic circles, therapy groups, breathwork sessions, where the full range of human experience is welcome. It looks like this series, like you watching this, allowing yourself to consider that the parts of you that have been in hiding might actually be worth knowing. The return path is not a destination, it's a practice. It's the ongoing, daily, courageous act of bringing yourself back into your own body, back into connection, back into the truth that you are not too much and you are not enough. You are exactly what you are, and that is allowed. The organ connection continued, healing the heart. In part one, we talked about shame and the heart in TCM. I want to add one more layer here. The heart in TCM is also the organ most sensitive to joy. The heart opens with joy and closes with shame. They are direct opposites energetically. Which means, and this is beautiful, that one of the most powerful antidotes to shame is genuine joy, not performed happiness, not forced positivity, but the real grounded, open-hearted joy that we talked about in the joy videos. When you can feel joy, when your heart can open, shame has less room to operate. Because shame needs the closed heart, it needs the contracted chest, it needs the held breath. Joy breathes it out. This is why the work of emotional literacy is not linear. You do not heal shame and then you feel joy. You work on both simultaneously. Every time you allow yourself a moment of genuine joy, even a small one, you're doing shame work. And you're telling your nervous system it's safe to open. It's safe to be seen. It's safe to be alive in this body. And every time you do shame work, every time you bring a hidden part of yourself into the light, you create even more capacity for joy. Because joy needs space, and shame takes up so much of it. I want to close with something that I think is the most important thing I can say about shame. Shame tells you that the solution is to become less, to take up less space, to feel less, to want less, to be less visible, less alive, less yourself. But the truth that I have seen again and again in my work, in my own life, in the lives of my students, is exactly the opposite. The solution to shame is to become more present, more honest, more willing to be seen, more connected to yourself, to your body, to the people who can hold you safely. Shame shrinks you. And the antidote to shrinking is not perfection. It is not having it all figured out. It is not becoming someone who never feels shame again. The antidote is presence, showing up in your full, complicated, contradictory, beautiful, imperfect humanness and saying, I am here. All of me is here, and I'm not going anywhere. That is the return path. That is the work. And you are already on it because you are here watching this, willing to look. I will see you in the next video. Like and follow. And if you want to go deeper, reach out. This work is better together.